Welcome. Today is October 2nd, 2023, and this is your Amazon ACOS Weather Report. The Amazon advertising performance was approximately 60 degrees Fahrenheit, partly sunny over the last week. We experienced an under average day on September 23rd. So if you experienced poor performance on September 23rd, you were not alone. It appeared to be a widespread thing. Overall, the month of September experienced a slight downward trend in conversion rate, but mostly stable ACOS and revenue per click to balance it out. As you know, we'll take a look at four main metrics today: ACOS, conversion rate, revenue per click, and cost per click. If you're unfamiliar with these metrics, we have lots of content on this elsewhere. So what is the ACOS Weather Report? It allows you to view a subsection of overall Amazon accounts, approximately 1,200 marketplaces, all based in the US, so that you can compare yourself to those trends. So you can get a sense of, my performance did an upward trend or downward trend last week. Did that connect with 1,199 other marketplaces in the US? We have other content that we produce later in the week, which is all based around Amazon advertising and Amazon marketing strategy, called a PPC Den. So be sure to check that out as well. This represents just under 1% of meaningful Amazon advertisers as defined here. So, what did ACOS do last week and overall in the month of September? Let's take a look at this here. We're looking at the overall trend of Amazon ACOS here. And what you can see is that it ebbs and flows, goes up, goes down, it goes up, it goes down. But this red line is essentially the overall average ACOS, and it remained fairly stable. So you can see we ended just below basically 30% ACOS, just above 29% ACOS, and that's where we mostly strided the entire month. You can see that date on September 23rd, we had a big ACOS peak, jumping up all the way to 33%. And I did a search about what notable news happened that day, but you can see we have sort of peaks. That's a Saturday. All the time. It's just that that Saturday was fairly large. So I don't exactly know what that was. Maybe it was people going outside and try to get some fall weather in before it gets too cold. I'm not sure. So this had me thinking as the ACOS sort of ebbed and flowed. And if you're wondering how the results did last week, in general, you can see those last couple of days, mostly, these are below average. And then we had the September 23rd, which is above average. So for the most part, last week's ACOS was fairly stable here. This got me thinking, though, these ebbs and flows, and it really has turned me into a day parting believer. The first time day parting came up, several years ago with Amazon, I really wasn't feeling it because they didn't give us hourly or weekly data. They're still not going to be in the advertising console. But I know here at AdBadger, we really prioritized day parting over the last few months, and we'll be bringing that out to our users in just a few weeks here. So basically, the average ACOS on the weekends was 28% compared to the weekdays, which was about 30%, which I thought was very interesting. So I'm really just a day parting believer now. Let's take a look at CPC trends over the month of September. Now, what we have here is sponsored products in blue, sponsored brands in green, and sponsored display in red. First thing that jumps out at you is the sponsored display jump midway through September and then sort of resetting back to normal over here. I'm not exactly sure why it did this, but when you sort of look at these sort of CPC trends, and actually the CPC of sponsored products looks like it took a downward trend, which is actually pretty amazing. It looks like the trend of sponsored brands took a slight upward trend, and sponsored display was sort of all over the map in September. So pretty interesting to see there. So basically, if you're thinking of your performance from the last week, what you would expect is probably better performance on your sponsored display, better performance on your sponsored products than sort of the first week of the month, and sponsored brands probably being just about the same. So what I think is interesting here is that you can see the independence on every single ad type. You can see that sometimes sponsored display is not doing exactly what sponsored products is doing, which I thought was really interesting. So again, it adds to the importance of being able to split out your performance by campaign type and evaluate that way. If we take a look at conversion rate, you'll see that this echoes the ACOS. Now, what I think is so interesting is that this is sort of, you can see that the peaks are getting lower over the month of September and the valleys are getting deeper in the month of September. Again, September 23rd, I'm still not exactly sure what happened on September 23rd. Um, but I think, is this lowered conversion rate a counterbalance to consumer trends? Is it a real-time indicator of economic health? I feel like they've been saying doom and gloom for the U.S. economy for the last several years. But what I think is most valuable here, the takeaway for me, is that the importance of price testing. Price testing can be a very simple task. Jump in, raise your price a little bit, lower your price a little bit, seeing how conversion rate responds, because that can help better understand your market. What are people looking for? That can help it potentially inform your next product, all those kinds of things. So I thought that was really interesting. And lastly, let's take a look at revenue per click here. Revenue per click, also incredibly stable. Again, on September 23rd, saw a way below average dip. And compared to the other metrics, you can see that revenue per click, you can see how sort of, yes, this is below average, but at the same time, we experienced something like that in the first week of September as well. So fairly stable, ended the month right on the average revenue per click, which is about $3.20 something cents. Uh, Again, that's how much revenue people generate per click on average. So I hope you enjoyed this. And I actually was also inspired to look at revenue per click on the weekends versus weekdays, and you'll see the exact same thing happen, which I thought was pretty interesting. So if you enjoyed the ACOS Weather Report, it's a way to sort of evaluate the last week, the overall month of how you are comparing against the overall Amazon marketplace, a subsection of just about 1% of them. You can get it. So be sure to subscribe on email, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. If you want a copy of this data, so that you can actually see individually the CPCs for every ad type and the click-through rates on each ad type and the ACOS on each ad type. And oh boy, sponsored display. Uh, just drop a comment and we will send it over to you. So thank you so much. Have a good one. And I'll see you next week here in the ACOS Weather Report.